guys, welcome back to Class with Cass. In my last videos, I covered my high school stats, my extracurricular activities, the leadership version, and I read to you one of my own college essays and gave you guys tips on how to write your comm app. Well, this week I want to share with you a little more about one of my more time-consuming extracurriculars in high school, journalism. I'll be sharing a little bit about my journalism career and how I got to where I am today, and then I'm going to give you 5 takeaways that I think will apply to whatever it is you want to go into. So this all started when I was 11 years old and I applied to be a Scholastic Kid reporter. This is a program that still exists today that accepts up to 50 kids across the United States from the ages of 11 to 14. Part of your application is to submit an interview that you conducted with someone. Now, up until this point, I had never interviewed anyone in my life, so of course it was just the next logical and feasible step that I would want to interview the mayor of all people. Yes, the mayor of my city. So without any prior experience or knowing how to go about this, I just reached out to the mayor's office and they shockingly, graciously set up a time and a place for me. With a friend and my dad at my side, I interviewed the mayor at 11 years old. My very first interview. So when I got in, I was thrilled, but also totally out of my depth. The program doesn't really train you per se, as it is conducted remotely from its offices in New York. And of course, because it is journalism, the best place to learn is not in a classroom, but out on a field and out on assignment. So with little besides a mic flag, my red shirt, my pen and paper, my microphone, some home video equipment, I pretty much hit the streets with my very first assignment. It was to interview a museum curator at the California Science Center for a new exhibit called Mummies of the World. I have very vivid memories about this experience because of how nervous and inexperienced I felt. I was super self-conscious because my dad had set up the camera in front of the museum in this high traffic area where people were coming in and out of the museum all the time. I had to do my first stand-up and I felt embarrassed and nervous and jittery. My introvert self wanted to hide away and never come out again. Now mind you, I was the type of kid who was terrified of picking up the phone, of talking to strangers, of even like ordering or asking for the receipt at a restaurant. But with my dad's encouragement, I pushed through and I completed my first assignment. In Scholastic, we had the opportunity to pitch stories to our editors. At that point in time, I didn't really know what was possible or impossible. I was just a wide-eyed 11-year-old naive kid who just asked for really big things. So I remember sending my editor an email asking if there was any chance that I could interview one of the biggest pop stars at the time, Justin Bieber, if he ever came to LA. And I happened to be in the right time at the right place because around the time I sent my editor this email, Justin Bieber was coming to LA for the Never Say Never documentary premiere. So that was my first big Hollywood assignment. My entire family came with me to the carpet. My dad, my mom, my brother, they were my film crew. They learned how to use all of this equipment for me. I was just a little 11-year-old under all of these bright lights next to journalists who had done this all their lives. And the best part was, out of all the journalists in my section, good old Bieber stopped to talk to me. Since then, I've had chances to interview some of my favorite heroes. So after my stint with Scholastic ended, I started writing reviews for this website where teens can be the movie critics. Editor of that site began to trust me more and more. She sent me out to more screenings at first and then eventually conferences and red carpets. She became a mentor to me and saw things in myself that I couldn't even see and affirmed me. She started recommending me to other outlets she had worked with, and I got to cover a variety of entertainment news for teen and tween audiences. Later on in high school, I started writing for the Los Angeles Times High School Insider. A lot of the assignments that I went on here were pretty much self-initiated. I would reach out to PR contacts that I had connected with throughout my time at Scholastic and beyond. A lot of this time was spent sending basically emails into the void to see who would respond. There were a lot of closed doors, a lot of no's, and just a lot of ghosting and not responding. But that didn't stop me. I wanted to interview my inspirations, and for the most part, I did. I was also awarded a full scholarship to attend J-Camp, a high school journalism summer program by the Asian American Journalists Association. 2 summers ago, I joined Voices, their undergraduate version of J-Camp. Our mentors guided us through producing a long-form narrative piece about refugee families, which you can check out below, which we presented at the National Conference in Houston. I was also recognized by the Alliance for Women in Media's Gracie Awards for being an online video host in their student category. I was, at the time, the youngest winner. I want to acknowledge that all of this would not have been possible without the help of my family. My mom was my inspiration. She still is, and she was the biggest help when I was getting ready for these interviews. She'd help me research as a kid. She showed me which articles that I should be learning from, and she was my makeup, hair, and wardrobe person all in one. Every time I was out there covering an assignment, I know that she was at home praying for me, that I would have favor in every situation. My dad sacrificed a lot of time and energy, spent driving me to all of these events through rush hour LA traffic, which is a huge commitment. He was not only my main video cameraman, but he was also the person that I bounced all my questions off of in those very long car rides. He would make me laugh and give me some bogus, silly answers when he was pretending to be the interviewee. And my brother was usually my +1 to all of these screening invites. He would be the first person I talked to after seeing a movie, and I would discuss with him what I thought about it, which would ultimately shape the way I wrote my movie reviews. And now my brother is a fully fledged reporter of his own. He's had so many on-camera and print interviews with some of his biggest heroes and inspirations. I want to wrap this up by giving you guys 5 takeaways that I think will be helpful no matter what field you are pursuing. So they happen to fall into 5 different P's. The first P is pursue excellency. I didn't really have a teacher to teach me how to write these articles. I looked them up with the help of my mom and learned from it myself. I always turned in my assignments in advance of the deadlines and tried to anticipate my editor's needs. When I was out on assignment, I had to be on my A game because I was the youngest one on the carpet and I didn't want anyone to think that I didn't belong there. So whatever it is you're doing, give it your 100%. Refine your craft, be responsible, be reliable. Number 2, be proactive. I've learned the power of asking big. When I was at Scholastic, I pitched to editors what events I wanted to cover. I did research on my favorite authors and motivational speakers and actors and directors who were coming into town. When I was functioning more independently as a journalist, I made use of all the connections that I had built up with PR companies over the years and started initiating conversations and pitches out to them. I was always looking for upcoming future possible assignments and trying to see how I could make that happen. So opportunities are always there. You just gotta make sure you are proactive and ready to take those when they come. Number 3, be personable. One of my biggest takeaways from my time spent in journalism is learning how to be personable and how to win people over. Whether it was convincing a security guard that I belonged at an event, or catching a moderator's eye at a Q&A press conference, or befriending, journalists and publicists that I would see time and time again at the same events, I would try to connect with the people around me. This just made my life a little bit easier. Of course, it takes courage courage and guts to put yourself out there and in those situations, and it is definitely still one of the things that I am working on. Number 4, persevere. Despite what you see on the red carpet highlight reel, it is not all glamorous. As I said before, this requires so much time and energy and sacrifice. Sometimes we would have to wait out in cold and rain for hours long before an event would start, and celebrities would arrive late. I faced cold interviewees and even colder publicists. I heard no time and time again. It wasn't easy, but I grew a thick skin. I pushed on, I persevered, because at the end of the day, I knew it would all be worth it. 5, passion. I poured so many hours into the world of journalism because I loved it. I would stay up super late at night watching countless interviews by journalists that I admired. I would study various articles and try to get my writing up to par. I would do so much research on my interviewees and just assignments leading up to the big day. I pressed myself to ask questions that had never been asked before, and I wanted to do this because I saw how much my articles and interviews meant to readers. That if I could do my part in bringing these stars a little bit closer to Earth so that my readers can see that they are human and that they had their own paths to success, that maybe my readers can be a little bit inspired to also pursue their dreams and follow their passions. For me, it was obviously a dream job getting to sit down with some of my favorite inspirations and just learning about their lives and how they got from point A to point B. I left every interview feeling deeply inspired, and I knew that telling stories through journalism and other forms was one of my passions. I hope you guys will find your passion out there, and if you have, that's amazing, that's great. Best of luck to you, and I hope you find these tips helpful. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you check out my previous videos if you haven't yet. If you have any questions, as always, leave them below. Very responsive. Other important links such as my Facebook group, my Facebook page, I'll put in the description. And yeah, thank you guys again, and I will see you next time. Cheers.